Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to another segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. Our recitation is the 27th stanza from Asa Mahalla Pehla, composition of the first Nanak. Asa Mahalla Pehla, Pevakarai Dhan Khari Iani, तिस सह की मैं सार न जानी सहो मेरा एक दूजा नहीं कोई नदर करे मेलावा होई रहाओ साहोड़े धन साच पछानिया सहज सुभाए अपना पिर जानिया गुर प्रसादी ऐसी मत आवे ता कामन कंतै मने भावै कहत नानक भै पाव का करे सिगार सधई सहजे रवे बतार. So in this Shabad, like the previous adjacent ones, Guru Nanak continues to use bridal imagery to describe what is a mystical process. And so he uses the analogy of a marriage. And the individual soul, or jeev, if you take your pick, is the bride-to-be. And it is sent to the parental home to be groomed for her spiritual marriage to the self. And the parental home in this case is the material world, but also symbolizes ego consciousness. So the soul has descended into this material world in ignorance. It has become unaware of its husband's self. And the spiritual training then is one of purification, of dispelling ignorance. So he uses the analogy of marriage to describe the process of a mystical union. He says, Pevakarai, Pekakar, parental home. Dhan here stands for the bride-to-be. Khari Iani is to be made pure. She's Iani, unaware. In a worldly sense, to say that she's not familiar with the ways of the world. She has to be groomed. But in the case of the soul that the Guruji is speaking about, it is about becoming pure, rectifying the defect of the ego. This is sahaki main sar na jani. This is sahaki. I know nothing about the ways of my groom, which is true. So in a real worldly sense, the girl is trained in the ways of the world. She's groomed, taught how to cook, how to carry herself, how to conduct herself, and so on and so forth. Very elaborate process so that she can anticipate the needs of a husband and therefore please the husband. So to begin with, I know nothing about the ways of my groom. This is being Iyana. So Khari is to actually rid yourself of these shortcomings and be prepared. So in a spiritual sense, that means getting rid of your ego. And who is the groom? The Guru makes very clear that he's not talking about a worldly wedding. Saho mera ek. My husband, my groom, is that one with a capital O. That primal being, the absolute. Duja nahi koi, none other. Guru says, I'm talking about that one, that supreme being, as being my groom. Nadar kare, should it look at me or give me a compassionate glance, then milawa hoi, union will be consummated. Otherwise, we remain unfulfilled. And then the marriage has happened, and the girl goes to a place called Sahore, the house of the father-in-law, in a worldly sense, that is. Dhan Khari Iani. So the Guru is saying that the wife who goes to the father-in-law's house, in other words, to her husband's house, begins to recognize the truth about her husband, Sach Pachanya, but in a spiritual sense. This implies that the ego has transformed itself into the Har self, if you will, the essence. It has recognized the essence within. Sahaj Subhai, then with spontaneous ease, Apana Pir Janya, I recognized and understood my husband. In other words, my husband's needs, my husband's presence became second nature to me. Sahaj Subhai, Subha ban gaya. So now, ordinarily, translators have described Sahore as the realm after death. But in my estimation, it stands for a higher consciousness. This is where the self is present. That is the domain of the in-law, so to speak. That is where you come and reside. That is where you come and stay. In other words, once the ego has evolved, then it is residing in a higher plane of consciousness all the time. That becomes second nature to it. Gur prasadi aisi mati aave. Through the Guru's teachings, through the Guru's grace, my understanding has been transformed. When it is transformed, ta kamin kante man pave, the groom then begins to satisfy all the requirements and desires of the bride, because she has adorned herself with Guru wisdom and is attractive to the groom. Nanak says, Kahat Nanak, if you wish to enjoy the constant companionship of the husband, Sadhi Sajje Rave Batar, Rave is to consume, is to enjoy the presence of the Batar, the husband, then adorn yourself with the qualities of love and reverence. Kahat Nanak, Bhai Bhav ki kare sigar. Adorn yourself with love and reverence, and you will enjoy the constant companionship of the Supreme Being, the husband. On that note, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.